welcome one and all to the Should F1 Racer in the Future series. We're here in Imola, Bologna, around one of the most iconic circuits in world motorsport. Of course, recently returning to the Formula One calendar in 2020. We're here in the Ferrari F2004, heading down towards the Tamburello chicane, chucking the car into this very twisty section of the track, carrying high speed on the exit, flat out, all the way down to Villeneuve. Of course, Tamburello and the Villeneuve chicane added from that original layout, making our way through the Villeneuve, tightens up in the second part, really carry the speed through the first part, and now down towards Tosa. Tight hairpin, you want to get a good exit, it's an uphill run, all the way up to Piratella. But yeah, originally, the original circuit used to go all the way down to Tosa, flat out completely, and they've added chicanes here and there since the early days in the 1950s. Really fast Piratella, drop down the hill towards Acqua Minerale, those iconic corners on the circuit. Heavy braking for the second part, really get a good exit as you shoot up the hill. And now thinking about the Variante Alta, the very difficult chicane. We've seen the F1 cars riding the curbs here. We're going to avoid them, and we're going to run a little bit cheeky and run them quite wide on the exit, get the power down as we now run down towards Ravazza, of course, the iconic house on the other side of the barrier. You can see them there in the distance. They had a great view of the F1 action the last couple of years, and of course, well, back in the early 2000s and in the 90s as well. Round the final corner, second part of wraps we go towards the line, and it's going to be a pretty decent lap in this iconic Ferrari, Michael Schumacher's final title-winning car. And we'll see a bit of an off-board lap as well. But in this series, we're having a look at all the different tracks. F1 sort of don't historically race out. Of course, the Imola circuit has sort of been a temporary filler for the F1 season, stepping in where it's needed to. And, well, it used to be a stable name on the calendar. Of course, unfortunately, is where Ratzenberg and Senna unfortunately lost their lives in 1994, and the circuit's had a few changes since that time. But it's such a great circuit. It's such good to drive. You know, Piratella, where now really throw the car and just try and carry as much speed as you can. It's such a high-speed circuit. Down to Acqua Minerale, throw the car in for the first part, and then do all the braking for the second part. And then slingshot up the hill, past sort of, I think it's a bit of a derelict house on the right-hand side, and down towards Variante Alta. That difficult chicane, big curbs, throw the car in, and then just, well, try and get as much speed as you can on that really tight exit. Really does tighten up. But it's a great track. Love to see it as a permanent fixture on the calendar. Of course, the technicalities, the finances might be a problem. But I think it's definitely a track. We've seen the last two Grand Prix. Of course, the 2020 Grand Prix, great one. Ricciardo ended on the podium. A late safety car really added drama to that race. And we thought it would be difficult to overtake. It was, but I think it was doable to overtake around Imola, the Autodromo Enzo Dino Ferrari, or as it's sort of more technically known. And 2021, of course, the changeable conditions. Early in the race, there was some rain, and it dried up throughout, and it definitely gave the drivers such a big challenge. Loved the Villeneuve chicane, really throw the car in the first part and do all the work at the second part, and you're just hanging on with the curbing on your outside there. Then towards Tosa, wind the power on as best you can, running up the hill, thinking about Piratella, another really fast corner. Almost blinded a little bit as you then drop down the hill, thinking about Variante Alta straight away, almost flat through the first part, and then just do all your braking for the second part, trying to carry as much speed as you can, and just sliding to then go up the hill towards that very difficult chicane. Not taking too much curb on the inside here, but we've seen some cars bunny hopping over the first part to really open up the second part, and then dropping down to that iconic Ravazza. Every corner on this track is iconic, it must be said, because the houses and the sort of villas on the other side of the barriers having a great view of when Bottas and Verstappen were dueling in 2020. Of course, Verstappen's son under the safety car in 2021. But this series, we're having a look at sort of trying to pick out where F1 could race at, looking at some of the iconic tracks that could they come back to the calendar rather than talking about the technicalities and the sort of finance behind it. But Imola is definitely a track that should return and sort of should be a permanent fixture on the F1 calendar. It's been brilliant to see it. Of course, I never really saw it. I started watching Formula One in 2008, so it's been great to see this iconic circuit back on the calendar. Hopefully, it will remain there for future seasons.